Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Sunday Night SitDown. I'm your host, Royce Jones. This evening, we are joined by union lawyer Amanda Green-Hawkins, who is the Justice Slate candidate for the Court of Common Pleas. Hey, Amanda.
Royce, good to see you.
Good to see you, too. How are you?
I am wonderful.
Very good.
Thank
Very
you.
good. Yes. Look, let's jump right in. Our first question for you this evening is, what inspired you to run for office?
So many things, right? This is after, during a 25-year legal career, there's so many things and this moments just add up and it's like, okay, that's it. I'm running. And, we've seen a lot of things in our media, in our news about the separation of powers with our executive branch, legislative branch, and an executive branch that is, taking a lot of leeway, using that red pen the way they like to change the laws the way we know them. And as a person, a woman of color, it scares me that we could have an executive that could do that. And if they aren't checked on that, someone like me could lose every single right that people have fought, bled, and died for. It is so important that we have judges on our bench who are not afraid to stand up and tell the legislature and that executive branch what their powers are and what the law is. And we need that in order for our constitutional democracy to be preserved. And I have every incentive to make sure that that democracy is preserved. So I'm in it.
Yeah. Let's do this. You touched on the potential impact that this administration could possibly have on your life and others in the future. But, I want to talk a bit about how politics have impacted your life already. Could you share some of that impact with us?
Oh, definitely. I have been a Allegheny County Council member, served 8 years there. And it was where I really got my feet wet as an elected official, helping to make the laws that I'm talking about that courts interpret. And a big piece of legislation that we did there when I was on council was the Human Relations Ordinance. And I was the primary sponsor of that law to prohibit discrimination against people based on gender identity or expression. And, it was a real eye-opener. I learned a lot about politics then, because when we started, we had a solid supermajority, so that even if the executive vetoed it, we had enough votes to pass it initially. But then the calls started coming from different people through different communities in Allegheny County, even people outside of Allegheny County. And so co-sponsors started to drop off the bill. And we really had to work, to maintain that majority. We passed with a simple majority of 8, that bill, and to work with my colleagues on council to make sure that happened and to make sure that everybody was shored up, and to work with the county executive at the time, who was Dan Honorato, to make sure that we were shored up. He made sure that, we were comfortable going forward, and said, let's do this. I said, yeah, let's do this. And we did it. We certainly did it. And that was huge. We still have a lot of work to do, but that was huge.
Yeah. What are some qualities that you think you'll be able to bring to the seat?
I am a union lawyer, and everybody asks, what does that mean? It means I know how to treat people with dignity and respect. I fundamentally believe that everyone's humanity should be recognized and everyone should be treated with dignity and respect, which means that they should be fully heard and not treated with bias. So our interbranch commission here in Pennsylvania reports that people say they're feeling bias in some of our courtrooms, and that should not happen. That is the one place where you should be fully heard and justice served. And justice cannot be served if you're being treated differently or not fully listened to because of the color of your skin, the way you look, the clothes you're wearing, the amount of money somebody thinks you have. That's not what our system is about. And challenging bias is something that I do each and every day. And it's something that I'm committed to doing on the bench as well. And bringing that experience as a union lawyer, where I have fought for 25 years for workers and working families, gives me a unique perspective on people who show up in the courtroom. I don't see them just as litigants or plaintiffs or defendants. I see them holistically as people who are going to work every day to support themselves and their families. And how is it a decision being made here will impact not just them in this moment we're addressing in their lives, but each and every person, everything going on in their lives. Because a lot of these decisions have ripple effects that people don't always consider when decisions are being made. And that is just so important, so that you don't have problems upon problems because you've made a decision at another point.
Yeah. With that said, what do you hope to accomplish within your campaign?
Well, I hope to win. I hope to be one of the 8 judges elected for sure. But I also hope that that my campaign is not only successful but inspires other people. We're living at a time where I think people are just really jaded about our electoral process, about our judicial system. And if my campaign can inspire confidence, can inspire interest in our judicial system, that would be well worth it for me. And also inspire others to run for judge or to run for legislator or to run for office. Because, I never thought, if you had told me when I was growing up that I'd be doing this right now, I would have thought you were crazy. Because, as far as I knew, people who ran for office didn't look like me. They didn't come from backgrounds like I had. So there are other little Amandas out there, right, who need to see and hear that and be inspired to be the next generation, to be that next candidate. So that would, for me, win, lose, draw, that's the best right there.
Is that inspiration? Is there anything about the Court of Common Pleas that people don't really know, but you wish they knew?
Yeah. The court has taken the lead in providing resources for people who are on the autism spectrum. And judges have information and training accessible to them to deal with people who are on the spectrum. And because they are more likely to be justice system involved, I think it's even more important that we have those resources, not just for the judges, but also for the people coming into the courthouse, so that they know there's this room perhaps that they can take a time out in if they need to, or there are these resources for professionals that they can seek help with or something like that. And even the judges, to have those resources to know how to better deal with people in the courtroom. It goes a long way to people's ability to access justice.
That's a really great pivot into my next question, because I want to ask you, what does justice mean to you?
To me, it means you get what you deserve.
Mm-hmm.
It's not necessarily about fairness or equality. It's more about equity. You get what you need. You get what you deserve. Mm-hmm. And I think it is difficult to reach it many times, but that, in my opinion, is what justice is.
Yeah, and at the beginning of our conversation, you talked about, touched on some things that you've already done in your career to sort of help people in terms of drafting laws to help people who might identify differently. Could you talk more about your practice in the past of helping support communities who might be different than you?
Well, through the work that I do for a labor union, we work with people from all different backgrounds, from all over the country, including U.S. territories, people who may be speaking English as a second language, or maybe not even speaking English, but fundamentally making sure that they understand their rights in the workplace, and to be treated with dignity and respect no matter what, the same as everybody else in that workplace. And I could tell you quickly about a case that I worked on early in my career that involved an all-woman workforce. State will remain unnamed, but it's not here. And they only spoke Spanish. No one in that workforce spoke English. And they made jewelry. And the working conditions were extremely hot, intolerable. And the women were threatened about remaining in those conditions to work, so that the employer could make money, and threatened that they wouldn't get their pay, they wouldn't get to eat, they couldn't go home, that immigration officials would be called. And so these women wanted to organize into a union because they had had it with all of this. And the employer was threatening to close the facility and move to Mexico. And so my job was to craft the legal argument that could be taken into court so that the employer could be prevented from moving, closing up shop and moving. And we were indeed successful. I crafted that legal argument and we went into court, and boom, the employer was ordered to bargain with the union that was the chosen representative for these women. And it was a huge, huge victory. And that's really what got me encouraged and started down this path to fight for workers, because everybody deserves to be treated like a human being. I don't care what your background is, what you look like.
Yeah, so you have a lot of experience working specifically with working class people.
Oh,
Do you have any?
definitely.
Do you have any more stories or history of your work that you want to share about your work with working class people?
Well, and you know what? I would say that the work involves not just like what we think of when we think of typical working class people, but in the union we have nurses, we have pharmacists, we have people who work in a steel mill, right? We have a wide range of people, and the commonality is that they want dignity and respect in the workplace. So they use that First Amendment right, freedom of association, to form and join that union. And do we have different issues in different workplaces? Definitely. Given the environment, given what's being done, the nature of the work changes the type of grievances or complaints that you hear. But the common thing is the demand for dignity and respect, whether it be for that smoke break that we bargained and fought for, or my 2 extra vacation days that I'm supposed to get, or maybe it's my overtime, or maybe it's that pension benefit that I'm supposed to be able to leave to a spouse. These are all issues that I've had to fight for. Just an example of the issues that I've had to fight for on behalf of our workers. And also health and safety in the workplace is huge too, because not everybody who went to work today will get to come home. And we have to do better in a lot of these workplaces to make sure that people come home with all their body parts and they come home alive. And fighting to make sure that safety equipment fits people, because you can't take something that's generally made for a man and put it on a woman's body necessarily. Like, here, put this on. No, let's make this right. Let's make sure that the equipment fits whoever it's supposed to be on, right? And let's make sure that people aren't being encouraged to skirt safety so that production can be ramped up, because that can only lead to tragedies in the workplace as well.
Yeah, this next question is a little bit of a pivot, and it's very specific. But how would your campaign improve the quality of life for an average 24-year-old?
Oh, who is an average 24-year-old? right. I think about young people, right? Young people today, and what they're going through, and maybe some of it is generalization, but I see a generation of people living at a time where I'm wondering how they can afford an apartment or a house and perhaps pay student loans if they chose to go to college or grad school or something. How can they afford to have children? Do they have health care? All of these things. And my campaign is about justice, people getting what they deserve. And first and foremost, I think everybody deserves to be treated with dignity and respect. I keep saying that, right? And treated like a human being, no matter what that background is. So, what are the things that those 24-year-olds are entitled to get closer to that humanity that we're talking about, to get closer to that affordable housing or that health care or to that wage? And maybe it is a judge making a decision about some access to things. And we just have to make sure that the law is applied fairly to everyone.
Yeah.
So I would hope that I do things to help the average 24-year-old, as well as the 23-year-old and 22-year-old. Times are tough.
Yes, yes. And what is some of your past experience working with people who have been impacted, let's say, by the justice system?
Well, I have done volunteer work on my own, pro bono work, to help counsel people who may have been justice system involved, I'll say. And although my background is not criminal, as a lawyer, my job is to be able to research the law, know the law, and to be able to counsel people or know enough to counsel and then say, hey, maybe you should talk to my friend John Doe attorney, for example, for some more advice. But I think that it's important for people in any part of our system, but probably even more so the criminal justice system, to get that due process and to be fully heard.
Right. And on that note, what does transparency and fairness means to you? You kind of addressed it, but let's expand on it a bit.
Transparency, Webster's dictionary says what? That you can see it, right? You can see it. And our system is supposed to be about being able to see what's going on, to see what's happening. And that is one thing that certainly builds confidence in our system and understanding of our system. This should not be something, our justice system should not be something that people don't understand. If it's built by the people and it's for the people should be able to understand it. And so being able to see what's happening and to know what's happening is going to be very important. Transparency, yes, definitely important. We don't want backroom deals, not in our courthouse.
Yeah, and also you're in terms of like reducing community violence. Do you have a vision? What is your vision for public safety or community investments to address that topic of community violence?
Well, the community has a role, definitely, but the community can't do it by itself. A lot of the things, some of the things that lead to violence in our communities are not community driven or not 100% community driven. So the solution should not only involve the community, it should also involve those entities and those systems and things outside of the community that lead to the problems within the community. And so as I approach many problems, when looking for solutions, say, you know what? I don't pretend to know all the answers, but here's what I know should happen. Stakeholders, people with the information and the knowledge should be at the table to help us craft a solution that meets the needs of this community and of our society. Because ultimately, if we want everyone to be able to participate fully in our society and in our economy, then How is it that we can best make that happen? And I don't believe that happens just from one person coming with a perspective and making a decision. Because for me, my background and all that may be vast, but it's limited, right? So let's get other perspectives to make the best decision.
Yeah, and talking about other perspectives too, where do you like to go to learn about other communities, and how do you try and work to maybe unlearn some of your potential biases?
The best place to go to learn about other communities is to go to those communities. That's what I can tell you. That's the best place to go. When I was younger, and go out to party and all of that, I would go to different clubs with different people and different music and different styles of dance to learn and learn while having fun, right? And it was the absolute best to me because I not only learned about different cultures and different people, I also was able to develop relationships with people as well, and you can't beat that. And you had asked another question as well, but that took me back to my party days, and I got a little a little misty.
Yes, no, that's all right. Listen, look at that. If that's your piece, that's my piece too. Hey. Um, no, but also, how do you work to? The second part of that question was, how do you work to try and unlearn any potential biases of your own that you might have?
Yeah, and this is an all the time challenge. All right. First thing I do is just take a pause and look at the people in front of me and ask myself the honest question. What is it that's going through my mind about these people? And would my thoughts be different if they looked different or talked different or acted different? And my answer is yes. All right, let's make them blank slates
Mm-hmm.
and treat them as people we don't have any clue about and not any imagination about who they are and all of that. And be conscious of this bias, because if this goes into the decisions you're making, then you're not helping anyone. And this is what I had to do as a mediator. Often I was working with people who weren't represented by attorneys. And so many times they had a lot of questions, and I had to be able to explain the law to them and make sure that they were treated like they were on the same level as the other party, whether or not that was an attorney they were sitting across from or not. And it's also something that I have to do in my work with the union, because I'm dealing with people who are literally, many cases, fighting for their lives, mm-hmm. and have to be able to talk with them and explain things to them in a way that is not is not condescending, and in a way that they can also understand and feel empowered. So I challenge myself all the time about my own biases, and you have to address them and confront them and interrupt them before they become a part of your thought process.
Yeah. What would your message be, by the way, to people who might be feeling hesitant to engage with your campaign simply because they just don't know enough about the judicial system and these races?
Oh, well, I would welcome them. I love to be able to explain about the court system if they have questions about it. Answer questions. A lot of people just have a lot of questions about it, and I say knowledge is power, and I would love to be able to answer any questions for them. Also, to talk with them about the judicial system and why this election is so important. Presidential race, yes, that's important. Gubernatorial race, yes, that's important. These judicial races right here in your own backyard, your own community, these are so, so very important as well. And please take an interest, because the people who will be sitting on the bench are there for a minimum of 10 years. And that is a long time to be doing good for the people or to be doing bad for the people. So you have every incentive to make sure that you're putting people on there who will be doing good. So please come learn more about me and my campaign, my background. I'd be happy to tell you all about myself.
Yeah, and earlier you talked about just sort of the overall inspirational impact, that you hope to leave here with this race, and hopefully inspiring the next generation of little Amandas. Regardless of the outcome here, what do you want the final impact of your campaign to be overall?
Mm. And I think about myself growing up and, running around talking about what I wanted to be, who I wanted to be when I grew up. And I remember talking to my dad about being a Supreme Court justice, even though I had no clue of what that meant or where it even was. I knew it was a big deal and that it was an important job because Thurgood Marshall was on the Supreme Court. And I may have said it earlier, the inspiration to the next generation to believe that they can be in these places and do these things is unmatched. And it's the best reward, in my opinion, ever, to be able to inspire more and more people, more and more diverse people to strive to run for judge. That's the ultimate.
Yeah, well, I think it's safe to say you already are. I think the inspiration.
Thank you.
The inspiration is already there. Is there anything that we did to talk about, or I didn't ask you, that you wanted to address or share?
Oh my goodness, Royce! I feel like we talked about all kinds of things, even my party days. Oh my goodness.
We checked a lot of boxes. That's all right. Hey, how can people get in contact with your campaign?
Oh, that's very easy. The campaign website is voteamandagreenhawkins.com. And our email is amanda@voteamandagreenhawkins.com. The phone number, 412-254-4188.
All right. And Amanda, before we leave tonight, I do have to put you in the hot seat with a very serious question. And that is, what brings you joy?
Oh, my family.
Yeah.
My family. I growing up the way I did and being in a place where I am now and to have accomplished and achieved the things that I've been able to accomplish means that my husband and I are able to give our kids a lot of things that we didn't have, and to be able to watch them enjoy many of the privileges that we didn't have ourselves brings me a lot of joy.
Well, Amanda, we appreciate you for your time this evening and sharing your story, and we wish you the best of luck with your campaign.
Thank you, Royce. Thank you. I enjoyed myself. Great talking to you.
Likewise. Thank you. And thank you to everybody at home for watching. This has been the Sunday Night Sit Down. My name is Royce Jones. Make sure you stay tuned for Tuesday for the One Hood Power Hour. That's where I'll be seeing you next. Have a good night.